This last week has been a week of change, subtle change, big change, transitional change. And as we stand around a congregation, we realize that change is a part of our life. Living is about being on some form of journey. When Jesus traveled in his journeys, he shared his teachings in the form of parables and stories. And so I have a little story or a little parable that I'd like to share with you. I heard this years ago, and it was one of those things that just sticks in your mind. It was, some people think it's meaningless. To me, it had depth, and it has a message, like all parables should have. But once there lived a village creature along the bottom of a great crystal river. A village of creatures, along the bottom of a great crystal river. Each creature, in its own manner, clung tightly onto the twigs and rocks of the river bottom, for clinging was their way of life, and resisting the current was what each of them had learned from birth. But one creature said at last, "I trust that the current knows where it's going. I shall let go, and let it and take me where it will. Clinging, I shall die of boredom." The other creatures laughed and said, "You fool! If you let go, that current you worship will throw you and tumble you and smash you against the rocks, and you will die quicker than of boredom." But that one heeded them not, and taking a breath, did let go, and at once was tumbled and smashed by the current across the rocks. Yet in time, as the creature refused to cling again, the current lifted him free from the bottom, and he was bruised and hurt no more. And the creatures downstream, to whom he was a stranger, cried, "See a miracle! A creature like ourselves, yet he flies. See, the Son of God comes to save us all." And the one carried in the current said, "Do not call me Son of God, for I am Son of Man like you. The river delights to lift us free, if only we dare to let go. Our true work is this journey, this adventure." I heard that parable a long time ago, around the time I was clinging to the rocks of my life. And it made me think. It's made me think a lot over the years. And I want to stack that up against the fact that I don't think there's a person in this who has not at some point in time seen even a clip of Star Trek. Who here has never seen Star Trek? Yeah, that's what I thought. Everybody has watched at least one episode. You know that franchise has been in our society for 40 years. It's been on TV in one form or another. There's been countless movies. I've seen them all. I don't remember all the stories, but I remember the beginning. That huge spaceship, the Enterprise, being launched into space, and that voice that comes on that says, "To boldly go where no one has gone before. To go where no one else has ever gone before." You know what scares me about so many people today? They will go where everyone else has gone. They will do what everyone else has done. They will be what everyone else has been. But they won't venture into the unknown realm of life. Yet God, through Christ, says to each one of us, "I have come that you would experience, that you would have all of life." Think about that when you read, like we did in Hebrews today, about Abraham. We're talking about Abraham in the year 2010. He was written about in the book of Hebrews approximately the year 60. Big span between those years. But he lived as far before that as we are from that date. So you think about over the millennium of times that this earth has revolved around the sun, We're still talking about Abraham. Why? Because he boldly went where no one had gone before. He lived his life. Can you imagine Abraham called as an old man to go where no one had gone before? What does it say? It says, by faith Abraham obeyed when he was called to set out for a place where he was to receive an inheritance. And he set out not knowing where he was going. Can you imagine? He was an old man. He wasn't in his teens, early 20s, starting out in a new adventure. He was old. He was finished. He was, as he described himself, as good as dead. Can you imagine Abraham telling Sarah, I've just had a dream. I've just had a vision. God's going to carry out a great mission through us. He's going to create a nation through us. We're going to be a new epoch of human history. Can you hear Sarah saying, go back to bed, Abraham? It must be something you ate. Stay away. No, Sarah, God through us is going to create a new humanity. And Sarah says, now how is this humanity going to get started, Abraham? And Abraham says, I'm glad you asked that, Sarah. And when he tells her, the story says they both fell down laughing at the absurdity of it all. And they had a baby, and they called him Isaac, which, by the way, for those of you who aren't aware, Isaac is Hebrew. Go figure. They were Hebrew people, and it's the Hebrew language word for laughter. They named their kid Laughter. Because what else would you name him? Can you imagine this old man stepping up with all of his belongings to go down the road? He's hobbling along with his 90-year-old pregnant wife, and you don't think God has a sense of humor? Hey, Abe, where are you going? I don't know. What are you going to be doing? I don't know. Then why are you going? Because God's given me a vision. Those people we lock up these days. Abraham had faith in the one who gave the promise. Faith. Faith touches our lives. Faith drives us. The belief in whatever drives us. But if you don't have a faith, if you don't have a belief, if you've lost the vision, you're going to cling to the rocks and die out of boredom. This faith in God's promise and the knowledge that God was with him is what made Abraham's journey a sacred journey. Because he knew God was with him. Isn't that exciting? It's not ordinary. It's not the way most of us act. We like to plan everything. We like to have everything set. We like to know exactly what's going to happen. I had a history a few years ago of taking holiday trips in which we didn't decide where we might go until after we had left. Seriously. We would change our goals and directions on any whim of the road and any circumstances that we happened upon, including the fact of getting to a major intersection and flipping a coin and saying left or right. I once set out for the Grand Canyon on a summer holiday and ended up in Charleston, South Carolina. They're really close to each other. It was a great holiday. You got to do where you got to go. Life's like that, though. Life takes us in other directions. One of the people that has always been a major inspiration for me, and some of the people who've known me over the years, I can't move away from the microphone. Oh, come with me. I can unplug it. Pretend it's wireless. Seriously, and I know this sounds... Did I turn that off? Yeah. It's got a touchy little button. Okay, thank you. Person who has always inspired me, and not because I like his chicken, was Colonel Harlan Sanders. Do you know the story of Colonel Harlan Sanders? He wasn't a colonel of anything. He was a militia. He had joined the local militia, and that got him the honorific title of colonel. He ran a little restaurant and motel, not a major chain, not a big name, just a little local restaurant and a motel on a highway in the Deep South. And when President Eisenhower decided that the Americans needed a major interstate system, they built an interstate near his town and bypassed his motel. And at the age of 65, as he was contemplating retiring, he found himself on the verge of bankruptcy. And he had one asset, actually he had two assets. He had his belief that he had something worthwhile, a belief. And he had a deep fryer. Seriously. And he put the deep fryer in the back of his car with his recipe of 9 herbs and spices. And he went restaurant to restaurant and said, "I'll cook you my chicken if you give me 5 cents for each piece."